The Robert E. Lee was a graceful steamship that spent much of its life ferrying passengers and cargo along the Gulf Coast of the United States during the early 20th century. Its white hull gleamed as it made its way through the waters of the Gulf of Mexico, a symbol of resilience and modern engineering. Built in 1924, the ship was named after the famed Confederate general, a reflection of the times in which it was built, and it quickly became a favorite among travelers for its comfort and reliable service. But despite its reputation, the Robert E. Lee would go down in history not for its years of steady service, but for the tragedy that befell it during World War II. It was July 30, 1942, and the world was at war. The United States had entered World War II less than a year earlier, and the waters of the Gulf of Mexico had become a battleground in the unseen war beneath the waves. German U-boats prowled these waters, their mission to disrupt Allied shipping and cripple the flow of vital supplies. The Robert E. Lee, a civilian passenger ship, found itself in the crosshairs of this silent conflict. The ship was on a routine voyage, carrying 270 passengers from Trinidad to New Orleans. Its passengers were a mix of civilians, U.S. Army personnel, and crew members, unaware that this would be no ordinary journey. The captain, William C. Smith, was a seasoned mariner who knew the dangers that lurked beneath the Gulf waters. As a precaution, the ship was being escorted by the USS PC-566, a U.S. Navy patrol craft tasked with protecting the vessel from enemy submarines. On that fateful day, the Robert E. Lee was steaming off the coast of Louisiana, approaching the mouth of the Mississippi River. The mood on board was tense but hopeful. Everyone knew the dangers of the war, but few thought they would fall victim to it. The ship had traveled these waters countless times before, and many believed that the presence of the Navy escort would keep them safe from harm. However, lurking beneath the surface of the Gulf, the German U-boat U-166, commanded by Oberleutnant Zur See Hans Gunther Kuhlmann, had other plans. U-166 had been patrolling the Gulf of Mexico as part of Germany's effort to strangle Allied shipping routes. The U-boat had already claimed several ships, and now it had its sights set on the Robert E. Lee. The attack came swiftly and without warning. At 2:10 p.m., a torpedo launched from U-166 sliced through the water and struck the Robert E. Lee amidships, just behind the engine room. The explosion was deafening, and within moments, the once proud ship was mortally wounded. Flames shot up from the vessel, and a gaping hole opened in its side, allowing water to pour in. The ship began to list, and chaos erupted on board. Captain Smith ordered an immediate evacuation, knowing that the ship would not last long in its current state. The crew scrambled to lower the lifeboats, and passengers rushed to find life jackets. Amid the confusion, the crew maintained remarkable composure, guiding civilians to safety as best they could. The PC-566, witnessing the attack, moved swiftly to engage the submarine, dropping depth charges in an effort to neutralize the threat. As the Robert E. Lee sank, its passengers and crew struggled to escape the carnage. Many managed to get into lifeboats, but others were forced to jump into the water, clinging to debris in the hopes of being rescued. The ship slipped beneath the waves with alarming speed, vanishing into the depths of the Gulf in less than 15 minutes. The survivors were left bobbing in the water, some injured from the blast, others struggling to stay afloat. The PC-566 continued its attack on U-166, but the submarine evaded detection and slipped away into the Gulf. The patrol craft then turned its attention to rescuing the survivors. Within hours, the USS PC-566 and other nearby vessels had pulled most of the survivors from the water, saving over 200 lives. However, 25 souls were lost in the attack, their lives claimed by the unforgiving sea. The sinking of the Robert E. Lee was a stark reminder of the dangers that even civilian vessels faced during World War II. Though it was not a military target, it became a casualty of the broader conflict that engulfed the world. For the families of those who perished, the sinking was a personal tragedy, a reminder that no one was truly safe during those turbulent times. In the aftermath, the wreck of the Robert E. Lee lay undisturbed on the ocean floor, a silent monument to those who lost their lives. The mystery of U-166, however, lingered. It wasn't until decades later, in 2001, that an expedition discovered the wreck of U-166 near the site where the Robert E. Lee had sunk. The discovery revealed that the PC-566 had, in fact, sunk the German U-boat shortly after the attack, though this had gone unconfirmed for many years. Today, the story of the Robert E. Lee and U-166 is remembered as a chapter in the Gulf of Mexico's hidden wartime history. It serves as a reminder of the many lives lost in the shadows of war and the courage displayed by those who survived. Though the ship's name was once associated with the legacy of the Civil War, in the end, it became a symbol of sacrifice in a much larger global conflict.